Welcome to another episode of In the Nude. Today we're going to have a naked conversation with Peter McLaughlin. He is a certified hypnotherapist that specializes in healing trauma through the subconscious. He came into this and he founded BlueSky Hypnosis, which you can find him on there. It's on YouTube, I believe, and probably other places too.
Well,
But he came into this because he was volunteering as a firefighter and then got diagnosed with leukemia. And then it developed into this. We're going to have just a conversation and see where it goes. First, do you want to do a tiny snippet about your starting? Because I know that's a foundational thing for you.
yeah, it was, I call it, actually, somebody else coined this and I loved it, which is getting hit upside the head with a spiritual 2x4. That,
Yeah.
that, that and I think stubborn people, I would raise my hand there, at
Yeah.
least I used to be more stubborn than I am now, require messages that are way more intense than people who are more tuned in, let's say. And I
Yeah.
feel like I was 41 when I was diagnosed with leukemia and Lyme disease on the same day. I needed two by fours, and I had three children who I think were like 8, 6, and 4, or 6, 4, and 2. They were really, really young. And
Yeah.
I was told when I said, "How long do I have to live?" They said, "Well, maybe 10 years." And it it definitely woke me up. And I can look back now and see how it was actually necessary for that to happen for me, in my opinion, to get back on a path that I had veered off of.
Yeah.
And I can see the myriad benefits that came as the result of something I never would have consciously chosen for
Oh,
myself
yeah.
or anyone else.
What, you didn't know if voted have been like, "Yeah, can I please have a plate of leukemia with a side of Lyme disease? That would be great. Can I just be served that?"
Yeah, no. No, wouldn't have
Yeah,
wouldn't have ordered that.
yeah, I'm right there with you. I had to be hit in the face with a 2 by 4. My life had to fall apart. Was severely depressed. I got, left 9 months pregnant. Like, it was a like
Oh God.
yeah, it was a whole so I'm with you. It took all of that for me to be like, "Oh, yeah, maybe something does need to change."
Maybe.
Yeah, but, like, honestly, as hard as that whole season was to go through, it's, the best thing that has ever happened to me, and that sounds really forked up. That sounds like, that why would you I would choose it now knowing what I know, but I wouldn't have
Yeah.
chosen it then.
I can completely and totally relate to that.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question, right? Because
Yeah.
I find healing is one of those fascinating things. Psychology is one of those fascinating things for me because of how amazing people are, like their unique natures, their personalities, how it all comes out. And I find healing is like directly linked to people. And so one person's path is vastly different than another person's path. So you've fallen into hypnotherapy, right? I'm
Mhm.
assuming there's like a journey that how it got there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was a series of events that knitted together in my mind in an instant. So I, I when I was diagnosed, I had owned a security guard company, and there was either it was probably like being a police officer. There was no stress at all, and then intense stress in the middle of the night kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I never really loved it. And when I got diagnosed, it was kind of an excuse to just sell it. So I sold it. And then I was feeling like, oh, I've got to have something. And so I used some of the money to buy a small little shipping and packing store. And that turned into be kind of a financial disaster. However, one day a person wandered in there with a box and it said Hypnotherapy Academy of America, Santa Fe, New Mexico on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And I got into this long conversation with her, and then just kind of put it away off to the side. And then a couple other things happened. And then my wife and I watched the movie The Secret. This
Oh
was
yeah, yeah.
2006. And I looked at her halfway through and I said, I have to be a hypnotist, even though they weren't talking about hypnosis per se in The Secret. And
Yeah.
she looked at
No,
me and she said,
but
yeah,
you
you,
saw the connection.
yeah, yeah. She looked at me
Yeah.
and she said, yeah, you do. And I started doing some research on different places to go. And I was really interested in the adjunctive medical part of it.
Yeah.
And when I checked into the one in New Mexico that this person walked into the store with, it was based primarily on medical, being, able to help people that are going through medical issues. And it was founded by a man who was a former paramedic. And at the time, I was a volunteer firefighter and EMT, and I heavily identified with being a first responder. And it was like, well, I got to call them. This has to be the place. And I called and they said, yeah, we have a class starting next week. We have one spot left, which I know wasn't BS because I got there and it was packed. There were 40 some odd people in there. And
Yeah.
I just kind of signed up immediately. And I feel like it changed my life following that path. But the
Yeah.
path
Yeah,
was
just following what you
created by
led
the
to.
spiritual 2x4.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question. I
Uh-huh.
love when things naturally flow like that. I totally get how like that's why they asked the question because I find it really fascinating how like different people because it's so amazing how literally you pick your poison. Like you can get to an amazing place just following what's right for you, right? So you said that you had the security company, right? And you had that like everything was fine and then it would be not fine in the middle of the night. And it never sit with you. But you also chose to be an EMT and a firefighter first responder, which is the exact same vibe where everything's fine and chill, and then all of a sudden you're flown into fight or flight. I'm assuming you had some of that in a younger, like childhood time frame where things were fine and then not fine, and things were fine and then not fine, or like how did you fall into that pattern of default choosing things for yourself to repeat that since you didn't like it?
Well, the biggest difference, which for me made all the difference between owning a security guard company with 50 employees and having and being a firefighter EMT, is
Uh huh.
that when I got on the scene of a motor vehicle accident or a structure fire or a hazardous waste problem or any of the other things that we would deal with, or a
Yeah,
person has a heart attack or somebody's floating in a pool, a swimming pool upside down, and we're having to try to revive them. The biggest difference was I knew I didn't cause this problem.
that is a big
That
difference.
and for me, that was everything. That
Yeah,
I was there strictly to help, to do what I could. And I can recall even one structure fire where this was in Connecticut. So I did this work in Connecticut and also in upstate New York. And in Connecticut, we had our personal turnout gear in our vehicles, in our trunk of our car, and we would meet the apparatus at the scene. So we could respond very fast. And I got to the scene of a structure fire and I was, one of the first guys to get there. And I'm putting on my turnout gear on the street. And a woman, the homeowner, there's flames shooting out of the house and she's screaming at me, do something, do something. And I didn't feel a sense of guilt, like, I had caused this. I knew there's nothing I can do until the apparatus arrives. And, we get hoses and we get tools and equipment and we get, teams that are starting to work. And I knew that they were on the way.
yeah,
And that was a big shift from a client calling up and saying, your guard is late, or we think your guard fell asleep, or your guard's having a relationship with one of our employees, or some crazy
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then my heart would go bang, bang, bang. Oh, it's my fault. I've got to fix it immediately. Whereas here, even though it's a more intense emergency, it
It
was
wasn't ever linked to your fault. Yeah.
no, it wasn't my fault. And it's all part of a process. So, even like sometimes they would have us, if we responded later to a scene, especially in New York, it never happened in Connecticut. Well, it did, where they'd want us to shut down a road. So, you pull a vehicle across the road and have the lights going and you're directing traffic. And I remember this one woman just kind of screaming at me, I have to get my son to an orthodontist appointment. Like, there's a fire, ma'am. This road is shut down. You'll have to
Yeah.
go around and, you can go. Well, I'm late. I have to go this way. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, you can't go. And I never felt like, oh, it's my
Personally
fault
attacked.
or,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
just like,
There's a level
she's
of
just,
distance that
yeah,
allows as far as you can
she's
just be
just
like,
having some stress. And my job is to keep the road clear for people's safety. So, okay.
yeah, yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. I can see the disconnect. I was just curious because to me, like, I automatically went
Yeah.
to, I am a wedding photographer. Like, that's what I do for a living, right? And that's a high
Oh,
stress environment,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because you're trying to make somebody's day great. And for me, I know why I thrive in that is because I know how to like my default is knowing how to cope in high stress situations because most of my life was high stress. So like
Mm.
that's my body's safety. Man, like you throw me in the middle of chaos and my body's like calm as like a Hindu cow as they say. Like I am like chill. I am
Yeah.
zen mother trucker in the middle of stress because my body's like, "Oh, this we know how to do this. Reading facial expressions perfect. He needs this, she needs that, we need this. Okay, go go go." And my brain like automatically because that's what my default was,
Okay,
right?
That's got me thinking. It's a really interesting point of view, and what you were intimating before, I think, is probably true. That as a kid, I learned how to be calm in stressful situations.
Yeah, because if you weren't calm, then everything turned horrible. Like, I was
Mhm.
the person who had to mitigate everybody else's feelings so I was safe, and they were safe so nothing happened. So my body knew how to shut down everything inside of me
Mhm.
and push everything down like it didn't exist, and I became zombie or robot Rachel, as people who knew me then would call me. I
Mm,
just lived
mm,
as a robot. I didn't have feelings. I would oh, that would normally make someone angry, but I don't feel anything because it wasn't safe for me to feel things because I felt other people's things, so I knew how to respond to get them to get what they wanted, right?
yeah.
And so now I feel great in calm environments, but it took me years because being calm, I would hyperventilate. I would start having a panic attack. I would start having like my body was like something is not like the only time calm
Right.
existed in my life is when ish was about to hit the fan. Like, I was about to get like, "Wop!" Like, there was no like, you know? And so
Mm,
for my
yeah.
body to be in a calm environment for years after I got into a calm environment, it was extremely dysregulating. It was extremely like fight or flight. My body would like I never had panic attacks. And then all of a sudden I'm in a calm, safe environment by myself and I'm having panic attacks because my body
Mhm.
was so used to constantly having to deal with other people's feelings and never having room for mine. And then all of a sudden my feelings are coming up and my body was like, like, you know? Anyway,
Mm,
so I'm very, it's
yeah.
always, the whole process is so like fascinating and amazing. And
Yep.
like, if you think about the fact that my body, because I'm 39, my body for 34 years of my life lived constantly not feeling my feelings.
Yeah.
Constantly subjugating it, and I survived till now. When you know the science of feelings, that is fascinating. Now, of course, I have,
It is.
like, a slew of autoimmune problems and all those things now, like my body, but, like,
Mhm.
it's fascinating how much the brain overcome and, like, help you deal with what you're in, help you survive, cope, and, like, I'm really grateful for all the things my body was capable of doing. Anyway, I find the whole thing very, very fascinating. Okay, so
Yeah, it is
hypnosis.
fascinating.
Okay, so hypnosis, you said you had to because of that conversation, other things that connected. I'm curious as to was there more than just like the one conversation before you talked to your wife and you're like, yeah, and she completely agreed. I'm assuming there were like some other things that had come up that made you go like, yeah, hypnosis is what were those?
Well, yeah, I put the security guard business on autopilot as soon as I was diagnosed, which meant that I was really only concerning myself with sending out invoices and doing payroll and
Yeah.
and dealing with any emergencies that came up. I wasn't trying to grow it. I wasn't trying to come up with new ways of running the business or anything.
Yeah.
And I instead, because I worked for myself, I was able to throw myself into researching this condition I'd been diagnosed with and
Yeah.
told that maybe I could live for 10 years. That was the prognosis that I was given. And I heard the hematologist oncologist say, "We don't know what causes it. We don't know how to cure it." I saw the picture behind her desk of like 2 or 3 little kids, and I was a parent of little kids, as I said, and I knew, how much time does she have for me? You know,
Yeah.
like, if she could give me 10 minutes once a week, that's probably a lot, is what
Yeah.
I reasoned. And I thought, I wh why am I here? If she doesn't know what causes it, doesn't know how to cure it, I shouldn't even be here.
Yeah.
And so I
You
just
can't
threw
if all you
myself
can
in.
do is treat the top and you can't like
Yeah,
help me
yeah. Yeah, just gonna manage the glide path down to
the
death maybe.
decline.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so I thought, well, I can throw myself into research. I'm not a doctor, but I'm reasonably intelligent, and I can begin to understand things better if I can apply more time. And so
Yeah.
I went and started with a purely physical cause and effect. And as I researched, it took me more and more into the power that our mind has over our body.
It's
That's
fascinating.
where I was when I looked at my wife and she looked at me because, yeah, we'd had a lot of conversations. I'd bring her home these research papers and talk about this
Yeah.
and that. And it was one of the ways of coping with fear.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
And then when I studied this work, it brought me more into a higher level, which is a spiritual level. So I believe that we're spiritual beings, that
Yeah.
we are having a physical experience, and that as soon as our physical experience ends, we don't end. We keep
Yeah.
going in a non-physical form. And
Okay,
then
yeah.
we come back, and we are here to grow and to learn lessons and to have experiences.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. I love uh, I'm very curious as to what your journey with leukemia and hypnosis went to, but I'm gonna pause for just a second and say, I love when something beautiful can come out of something so sad. And
Yes.
you being told as a young parent, like, if I was told, like, putting myself in your shoes, if I was told that I was gonna die, I have young kids.
Mhm.
I know what life would look like for them without me, and not because
Mhm.
I'm the most amazing person, but because I know I'm a good mom, and I
Yeah.
know I'm a foundational piece for them. Like,
Yeah.
that's a lot just even in my thinking about my kids, not even me. That's a lot for you to have to sit with. That's heavy, and then you have your wife, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's a heavy place, but I love the fact that somehow you've been able to turn something so dark, so sad, so, like, what could be something that was just there's a line that says, "Hard times, make strong people," and I don't
Oh,
think
yeah.
that line does justice because what I think it is hard times make. And I
Mhm.
think that sometimes a hard thing can make one person a really strong person, and sometimes a hard thing can break another person. And it is
Mhm.
not a denigration on either person. But when we can get a hard thing and come on the other side of making something beautiful, like you helping people, I think that needs to just take a little space and just say, I'm so glad that you were capable of that. And I'm
Mm.
so glad that you exist in this world to be able to help people now.
Thank you.
But anyway, um, so your journey,
Mhm.
hypnosis, you get in
Mhm.
there, you have leukemia, you're taking the classes. What happened with you personally, right? Like, cause you had leukemia,
Yeah.
you were being told probably like 10 years at best. I'm
Mhm.
assuming it's past that date now.
Oh, yeah, it's been 23 years, I think, something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
So
23 or tw is it I was diagnosed in 2003, so yeah, 23 years.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Yeah.
You go to the hypnosis
Um,
school.
yeah, I mean, so I left the hematologist oncologist,
Yeah.
and I found my way to a naturopath,
Okay. Yeah.
and this was another, piece of kismet.
Yeah.
I just was referred to her by a friend of a friend of a friend, and then I
Yeah.
just felt like I hit it off with her totally. And she used kinesiology to do diagnosis, and I was kind of blown away by that methodology, and
Yeah.
I really believed in her, and I felt like she really believed in me, and I think that that's a big piece of anybody that's involved with the healing arts is for
Oh, yeah.
them. I read this once that they were talking about doctors, and they said the best doctor, and I'm not a doctor, is somebody who already sees their client as totally healed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they help almost like a coach instill in them the way a coach instills in an athlete that their strengths and their power and their potential. And that
Yeah.
that's a huge part of this path, even though you're using different tools and methodologies and so
Yeah.
on. And I felt like she did that for me. She said, "Oh, okay, you got this, fine." She didn't like, "Oh, super grave or anything."
Yeah,
And
I
she
think the
had
same thing is true with, when you're trying to parent a child that has, like, a
yes.
troubling thing, or if you're, like, you have a therapist. When you have
Mhm.
someone who like, if you have a child and say they have a problem with lying, if you treat them like there's somebody who is honest, who's just acting like they're not,
Yep.
like, "Oh, you just made a mistake," and you no, but you're an honest person, and you, like, speak that into them and onto them,
Yep.
or with a therapist, you're like, "No, you're a strong you know how you've been strong for everybody else, we're just switching it so you're strong for yourself." Like, and
Yep.
they show you it's powerful. Anyway, so you have this
And
person, she believes in you.
these are hypnotic suggestions, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Because people go in and out of hypnosis every day, all the time,
Well,
without a hypnotist being
we
present.
talk about it honestly, highway hypnosis, right? Like, we talk about it
Yeah.
and we say it, but we don't, like, make the connection. We think of it as something different. It isn't
Yep.
actually.
Yep. And one of the things that I learned as a first responder is that, you come up on a motor vehicle accident and somebody is screaming and they're in pain. Well, they're also in hypnosis. That's where they
Mhm.
are.
Yeah.
And our job is to get them out of the car. Sometimes we have to cut them out of the car. but
Yeah.
our job is to get them out of the car and stabilize them, get them on a longboard, get a neck brace on them, and get them in the ambulance as quickly as possible and mitigate any kind of wounds that they may have that may be a threat to their life. Well, what I what I learned because I was a hypnotist then was I could calm somebody down in 60 to 90 seconds. I could have them totally calm because
Yeah.
I'm speaking into them and it's being received perfectly. There's no blockage.
Yeah,
And
because
then
they're already in, like,
right,
suggestible situation because 'cause they're
exactly.
just shut down.
And then another well-meaning EMT might say to the person when we're transferring them onto the longboard, this is going to hurt. And then boom, they start freaking out again because it's a hypnotic suggestion. And
Yeah,
they just don't.
you're trying to help they're trying to help be, like,
Yes.
warning, like, if they
Yep.
weren't in hypnosis, it would be a perfectly great suggestion, like, there's
Sure.
a step there, you know?
Yeah. Or if they had been trained in hypnotic language patterns, they would know you can just reverse it. You can say, we're going to transfer you to the longboard. This can be comfortable. Just close your eyes and go back to the beach.
Yeah, yeah,
So, what you're saying is absolutely true. And it's great for people to hear this, that when you're talking to children, until they get to be at the youngest, about 7, they're in hypnosis all the time.
yeah,
Every human being is in hypnosis when they sleep. I used to
mhm,
go into my eldest son's room when he was being cruel to his sister, and I would just deliver hypnotic suggestions while he was sleeping, and the next day watch his behavior change 180 degrees.
yeah. Yeah, I have had, what is essentially foster kids in my house before. It's a long story, but that is what I used to do with them because I
Mm,
found I didn't know the signs of it because this was years and years ago. I just
mhm,
found a huge difference if I communicated this one kid. I used the example of lying because he would lie over and over and over about everything, and I knew why. I knew where it came from. I knew the patterns of habit or whatever, but like I found it so infuriating because lying for me is a trigger, right? And so I was like trying to find a way to make it clear to him that like messing up isn't the problem. It's just owning when we messed up, right? And that's when I came across if I just said, "You're an honest kid. You're an honest kid. I'm not sure why you're choosing this right now, but we don't have
mhm,
to." And when I
yeah,
switched the narrative from that being a part of his behavior and who he was to being like, "That's weird. That's an outlier. Why like, I don't know why this is happening, but you're this kid." Everything shifted, and it's amazing, and you can even do that with yourself. It's harder, but you can do it with yourself. You can set yourself up by, like, when you're going to sleep, you can put
oh
on
sure, yeah,
things, but you can
mhm,
also just change the framing because within each of us, we have these, like, parts of ourselves that are trapped, right? Like, they're locked in, and we can have conversations when you have that like freak out, that anxiety, like I would have.
mhm,
And I can sit with myself and I can say to myself, "You're a calm person. You're a calm person. I'm not sure why you're acting anxious right now, but you know how to handle." Like you can do that with anyway. I find it all
sure,
amazing
yeah,
and fascinating.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, my YouTube channel is really devoted, if you will, to creating content that people can use for the purposes you're describing. So I've got
Yeah, that's
about
awesome.
250 pieces of content, and at least 200 are, if not more, are sort of like, for want of a better term, like self hypnosis that would either
Yeah,
be in an audible format or it would be in a subliminal format because subliminal also works. Subliminal
yeah,
in this context basically means sub-audible. So something could be sub-visual or sub-audible, both
yeah,
constitute subliminal. And the results that people get that because they write in
yeah.
what has happened is remarkable. I mean, it doesn't work perfectly for everyone, but there's
No.
thousands and thousands of people
Well, that and
that have
sometimes
these
people need.
remarkable results.
I was gonna say sometimes people need something more specific. Like sometimes you can
Sure.
okay, put it this way. I have a lot of trauma, right? And I've been to therapy, and that had some level of benefit. But what started having a lot more benefit was when I started doing EMDR, which is
Yep.
for specifically trauma, when I started doing ART therapy, when I started doing IFS therapy, because those started like pinpointing, like arrow shotting specific parts of my person that were really stuck, that were really
Yeah.
like quicksanded in, if you
Oh yeah.
will. And
Yep.
so I think that sometimes the generic hypnosis and subconscious things can be really helpful with small things, but sometimes you might need something a little bit more pointed towards you. in
Yeah,
that
for sure.
realm to make it, yeah.
And I heard you talking on one of your YouTube videos about shame.
Oh, yeah,
And
shame is
so
huge.
I use a tool that's very similar to, EMDR. It's called Havening,
Oh,
and
yeah?
I love it because it's so fast. You can very
Yeah,
quickly resolve things, but there are times when it doesn't work, and what I've discovered is that when it doesn't work, it's because shame and or guilt is blocking. And then you have to move into hypnotic regression and help the earlier version of that person release the shame or release the guilt. And once that happens, the
then it
situation
all,
resolves very fast.
yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Like you said, kids are basically just walking hypnotized people, right? They just are receiving all the time.
Yep.
And so when you're a little kid and you're being told, automatically most kids think, what should I do to adjust? Like that's an automatic, most children, that's where they are. But then if you have somebody telling them, you're the problem,
Yeah.
no matter what's happening, they're going to take that in because they can't
Right.
not. They don't have an ability to stop that. And it's remarkable. It's fascinating and amazing what little kids are capable of doing, shifting and adjusting to cope and deal and survive. And people say resilient. And I hate that term because a lot of times it makes it sound kind of like, oh, it doesn't really matter because they're resilient. I think
Right.
it's
We can do anything we want. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's fascinating that kids are resilient, but I don't think it's something to say it. I think it should be something that's like renowned. Like when somebody is capable of acting as two vastly different people, that isn't something to be like, oh, well, they just act well. That's something to be like, wow, they act well. You know, kids are resilient, something to like amplify and see how amazing the body is, but not something to push aside and be like, well, they'll just deal.
Right.
I make space for that just simply because I think each one of us was that kid that was just like, nobody cared. And so it's just, but anyway, so
Yeah.
you go to the doctor, they care about you, they're like really invested, they think they know you can heal.
Mhm. Yeah. And my supposition at the very beginning was no problem in the universe occurs within a vacuum. That
Yeah,
every symptom has a cause. And that is the essence I learned of naturopathy. That's how they think regarding the physical body. Whereas
yeah.
allopathy, an MD is an
I'll
allopath,
pass.
the
Yeah.
the philosophy that underpins that is the alleviation of symptoms. And that's why we have a disease management system. So
Uh-huh.
when I was an EMT, I was trained, to work with patients in the field. That's what I did.
Yeah,
And I felt really good about bringing patients to the hospital, to the ER, when they had suffered a trauma. When they had been in a car accident, when they had fallen out of a tree, when they had been wounded as a result of something.
yeah,
But I felt really bad taking them there when they had a medical issue because I know that that system is just about the alleviation of symptoms, and that
yeah,
oftentimes the drugs that they give create even more symptoms, and it wasn't
yeah,
aligned with my philosophy of getting to root cause.
yeah. No, it's
So
really hard when you realize how the medical system works and that it's not actually trying to heal, it's trying to put a Band-Aid on it. And when you see that, it's really hard to like offer up what feels like sacrifices to the system when you know there could be something like it's you know that it may not like fiscally it's more expensive to get actually helped. Sad as it is, it is. It's hard to find a doctor that your insurance will cover that treats you like a person who's trying to be healed. And so like you get why the system perpetuates, but it's also hard to watch it. It's hard to like be a
yeah.
part of it. It's hard to be like
Oh, yeah.
because you want a different answer. You're like there are other answers, but
Yeah.
there's a financial barrier for a lot of people to even be able to get that, let alone if you even have someone. Like I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, or near Raleigh, North Carolina,
Mm,
and it's the capital of North Carolina. I travel to Winston-Salem, 2 hours away, to be able to go to an integrated medicine doctor
yeah.
because I can't find one in Raleigh. That is a privilege that I have the fiscal ability to drive
Yep.
2 hours to a
Yeah.
doctor's appointment, and I have to pay out of pocket
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yep.
because my insurance doesn't cover it. Like, so for me, I am extremely grateful for my privilege, and I hate that it's a privilege to actually get helped.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. It was the same for me. I discovered very quickly that anything, in my opinion, that was valuable, I was gonna be paying out of pocket for. I still
Yeah,
feel
and
that
it's
way.
I know, and it's
Unless
so sad.
unless it's trauma, unless, God forbid, a bone
Yes.
is broken or,
No, trauma, like, I
you know
the trauma is fantastic help with, like, dire situations, but, like, when you wanna be seen like a person, when you wanna be seen not like a list of symptoms, when you want something to be
right.
fixed, not Band-Aided, and it's
And what I learned about this whole thing, or what I believe, I should say, is that the reason that allopathy is so good with trauma and they're so bad with medical is that they can see the broken bone.
yeah,
They cannot see what caused the cancer. They can see the symptom of it, right? They can see the high
uh-huh,
white blood cell count or the low white blood cell count. They can see the tumor, but the
yeah,
tumor didn't cause the tumor. Something
yeah,
else did. And that something else is going to be, in my understanding, it's going to be like a environmental toxin
mhm,
and or an emotional toxin, what I would call an emotional toxin, like
yeah,
old trauma. And
yeah,
they can't see that at all. They wouldn't probably even acknowledge that. That
yeah.
but
Well,
if you
it's
really
hard
sat down.
I was gonna say it's hard to acknowledge what feels like, now there's science that backs it up, right? There's science that proves that emotions are physically tangible in the body, right? There's science to that. You can literally read journal articles about that. But 10 years ago, if you had said a feeling was a real thing in the body, you probably would have been laughed at by most people. Like, and so it's still there's so many people still playing catch up that they haven't read the journal articles. They don't believe it still. They think it's mumbo jumbo. But like it's fascinating that a physical experience I had when I was 7 years old and the emotional ramifications that I felt at 7 years old that I did not process because I was not safe to process and shoved down then taught the pattern of behavior of shoving down. I have autoimmune diseases because of my self abdication. Autoimmune diseases are literally the body attacking itself. Guess what I was doing by pushing my feelings aside? I was attacking myself. And my body goes, oh, this is what we're doing? Cool. I know how to do that. Attack autoimmunity. Like I have three. I have three autoimmune diseases because my body followed that pattern. But it's fascinating that you can now see the science of it and it isn't some type of mumbo jumbo. It isn't some type of like ethereal like people like aura and like they don't see it as anyway. I love that it's people can there's enough science now to show that it's there. You can-
Well, yeah, and that, I mean, the science actually is probably decades ahead.
yeah,
I mean, there Bruce Lipton was wrote a book when I was going through hypnotherapy school 20 something years ago, The Biology of Belief. He was already talking about epigenetics. Epi is Greek for above
yeah,
genetics that you can, and he said, it's proven. This is 20 something years ago. You can change your genetic expression based upon your emotional state.
yeah. And then people know that with like placebo effect, right? Like doctors,
Yeah. Oh,
even
yeah.
the doctors who
People are
see like
pushing it away. It's only the placebo effect. Get away.
I know. It's like people can view highway hypnosis and understand that concept, but the idea of constantly being in and out of hypnosis during the day, their brain's like, no, no, I didn't mean it like that. It's the same disconnect where they somehow feel like it's like detached, like it's otherworldly. It's like reincarnation, or they have this like imagination, like that's an imaginary thing. Like I just named it hypnosis because it was like kind of like what you see in cartoons, but I didn't actually mean, it's a mind game because we're
Oh, it is.
uncomfortable.
It is. And we've been taught to reject our imagination.
Yeah, but what's so
And
funny is we also live in it because worry is imagination. It's just the
yes,
adult version of like stabbing
and
yourself.
so is an airplane and an MRI machine and your mobile phone all began as somebody's imagination.
Yeah. Every creation, everything.
Yes. It's
Like
it's the
bread.
zenith.
How bread was made was somebody was like, huh, I wonder what's gonna happen. They played around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our
But
entertainment, it all
mhm.
comes from somebody's imagination.
Yeah,
art,
and we all
music.
love the actual experience of like we like going to the movies. We like seeing a play. We like listening to music. We love seeing art. But all of that stems from this internal being, this thought process, this like feeling coming out from a person, and then we experience it because we know what it's like to feel that. But then we sit there and be like, "Nah, that's not cool. Like that we don't have time for that. We don't like that doesn't make when we come
Well, and
back to ourselves."
we've been taught and programmed that, and when you have a conversation with somebody, it's it's not that complicated to explain it. Because
No, it's
even
beautiful.
the currency, the cash in your wallet or in your
Yeah.
purse, or the digits in your bank account, they
Yeah, they're
have
imagination.
0 intrinsic value, 0.
Yeah,
But we imagine that they have
we
value.
believe. We believe
We
it.
believe right, yeah, yeah. But instantly, they could lose all value because they never had any.
Yeah, because it's all imagined.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's I feel like we live so much of our life in boxes, right? Like, I
yep.
am a woman, I am white, I am a mother, and I think we do that in all aspects of our life where we have these boxes and we are naturally it's safe to feel like things are binary. It's on or it's off. It's out or it's in. And it's clean. But most of life isn't a box. Most of life is in between the box. And even when you are sometimes in a box, just because I am a mom doesn't mean I'm always a mom. And that doesn't mean it's a definitive, it's one of 17,000 things that I am. But we get so stuck in, and I think that's what the imagination thing is. And that's what the like, we get so default pattern of being a cog and having to pay the bills and having to whatever, like that you just let life take over in almost a transcendental, like hypnotic state of just default without living. And it's society perpetuates it.
I'm with you on the box, and I think that part of healing is literally remembering who you are and that you're bigger than the box. And
To say, and even sometimes, like for me, I lived so long in boxes that I didn't know who I was. So it's literally deciding I was 34 when I started the process of healing. I decided, okay, I'm going to find out who I am.
mhm,
Who is it? Because started abdicating before I have any memories, right? So for me, it was discovering the true self, but coming to who you really are
mhm.
and knowing that most of the time the things you don't like about yourself are coping mechanisms. They're not
Yes,
you. Most
that's
of the
right.
things you find annoying aren't you. They're you having dealt with a traumatic situation and like my people-pleasing tendency, totally a coping mechanism. My anxiety,
Mhm.
totally a coping mechanism. Yeah. So anyway, so we
That's
keep getting
wonderful.
derailed from your story. I do want to know.
Oh, okay, so the naturopath helped me, and was aligned with me that every problem has an underlying cause. And
Yeah.
she was primarily looking at the physical aspects of that and found out that I was poisoned with various heavy metals, and it was like, "Okay, that makes sense to me."
Yeah. So like
I
detoxes and all that.
uh-huh, yeah,
Yeah.
and then the training that I got as a hypnotherapist helped me to understand the concept of an emotional toxin and the
Yeah.
effects it has on your body. So your autonomic nervous system, as you know, only has 2 modes. It's either in fight or flight or it's in rest and digest. And if it's in fight or flight, particularly if it's chronic, then your body is being robbed of energy. It's taking energy away from all of your major systems, which you don't incidentally need when a lion is coming at you. You
Yeah.
don't need your immune system to be fully functioning or your
Yeah.
digestive
You're
or
not even
reproductive or endocrine system. No,
yeah.
it takes much of that energy and it gives it to your muscles so that you can run away or you can fight.
Yeah.
And your
Yeah.
thinking goes from your prefrontal cortex, the executive functions, back to your lizard
Mhm.
brain, which is only concerned with surviving. But again, if you're in that state 24/7 for years and decades, you could
Uh-huh.
see how that permanent diminishment of your immune system could lead to cancer, or it
Yeah.
could or it could corrupt your immune system and lead to things like autoimmune situations or heart attack. That's what people generally think about with stress, but it's also with
Yeah.
cancer and other
Yeah.
invasive
Or
diseases.
like Or like PCOS, which is like
Yeah,
a reproductive problem, right? Like that
yeah,
your all of
sure.
that energy has been robbed from that and put someplace else.
Yes.
It's amazing how the body is like every system interconnects and all of that, but
Yes.
how
Yep.
any one of them can be a faulty thing when you're sitting there stuck in this. The only parts of you that are getting it are the I have to survive parts.
Yes, and the effects of tension. If you hold tension long enough, what's that gonna
Yeah.
do to your musculoskeletal system in terms of, like, chronic back pain?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we keep wanting to see, "Oh, what's the physical reason that this person has back pain?" But every chiropractor I've ever talked to says, "I can put them back in line,
And mine
but their emotions are gonna pull it back out again." And then they come
yeah.
back and I put it back in line and the emotions pull it back out.
Yeah. Like the it's like most things. It's not an okay. Okay. If you have trauma, right? Going to therapy is fantastic, right? But you also have to get yourself into a safe environment for what you're being taught and the coping mechanism for you to be able to feel like you can actually apply it. And then on top of that, if you're struggling with depression because of the trauma that you've been going through, you created a safe environment, your body also will feel better and be able to cope with those things better if you start moving physically. If you start eat it's all connected. We like to
Yeah.
think of things as their own individual problems because of the box culture. Like, it's a Band-Aid, put a Band-Aid on it. That's
Mhm.
not my system. You need to go to that doctor. That's not my system. You need to go to that doctor. Instead of being like, okay, I want to attack it on all fronts.
Mhm.
And that's what you did. And I I'm so glad that you were able to come across that and that you're able to help people now with that. What
Mhm.
does that look like? If somebody's, like, coming to you obviously, you have your channel where they have that, but, like, what
Right,
else?
that's basically the free offering, that they can use that. When somebody comes to me, I'm looking for root cause.
Yeah,
That's what I'm interested in. That's what a mechanic would be interested in. If you came to a mechanic and you said, "My car is pulling to the right, there's smoke coming out of the engine, it's making a weird noise." That's a symptom. That's not the
yeah,
problem. That's an
yeah,
indication that there's a problem, and then the mechanic's job is to go, "Okay, based on my experience, the symptoms you're describing could be one of 4 things." And then my job is to trace that back to the hose that's come loose or cracked or something, and there's
yeah,
now fluid going onto something hot, and that's creating the smoke. I replace that hose, and the smoke problem goes away. I
yeah,
replace the part that's gone bad, and this is
or create a new
repaired.
pathway. Yeah,
It's the same thing with you. It's the exact same thought process in my mind, but we're just more sophisticated. So
yeah,
at the root of any kind of symptom at the surface, there's going to be some kind of an emotional component. It may
yeah,
not be 100% of the reason why you're there, but it could be. And if
yeah,
you resolve that root cause, the symptom is going to get better. That's the way it works. And
yeah,
so my job is to help my clients find and resolve those symptoms. That's what I would describe as one side of the coin. It's basically the obstacle or block side of the coin. I've got this
yeah.
boulder on my path and I can't get past it. So the other side of the same coin is more traditional hypnosis, which is seeding or programming the mind with the suggestions and images and feelings for what you do want.
Do
And
you
I
want?
think that these
Yeah.
things go together.
Yeah,
And
no, for sure. It's kind of like, you can say, "I don't want to raise my kids how I was raised," right? But
mhm,
that doesn't give
yep,
you a direction to go. It just gives you a pinpoint of where to avoid.
mhm,
And that's
yep,
still functioning and parenting from a place of pain. Versus if you say, "Okay, I start there. I don't want to parent how I was parented." And then turn around and you go, "Okay, if I'm not wanting that, what do I want?" And you then figure out a few things that you're going to aim towards. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be like, I want my kids to feel like they are valuable no matter what. I want my kids to feel safe to tell me how they feel. Right? Like
mhm,
tiny it doesn't have to be like you know everything. But then you can know what you don't want, but also know where to aim towards. And if you know where you want to aim towards, like what your kid looks like as an adult, as an ideal, right? Like they're 25, they have good what's it called? A healthy connection with themselves, right? They know how to talk about how they feel, and you have this visual in your head. You can then reverse engineer a path back, right? But you need both. You need both to run away from where you were and to run towards something. And that's what you're talking about as far as like getting past the mental block of whatever the pain was, but also aim towards what you do want. The suggestions of things like whatever it is. Like say you have a pattern of behavior or seizing control in your life because binge eating. because that was the one thing you were capable of doing. So you have body dysmorphia and you binge eat, right? You go back to that core wound that started it, but then you also can have a suggestion of, I love myself to take care of myself enough to eat
Yeah.
what I need
Right.
or
Right.
whatever
And
it
I
is.
think of the for me, the on the two sides of the coin, I'm more interested in the trauma side because I think we have a natural ability when we're not it's almost like an anchor. You've got this beautiful sailing ship, but the
Yeah.
anchor is deployed and you're trying to sail your boat someplace and it's hard because you're dragging the anchor across the seabed. And once
Yeah.
the anchor is brought in, the other parts of it aren't as complicated because the
Yeah.
ship is designed to sail just like we are designed to live. And you were talking about the mystery and the magic of the human body and how it can adapt on its own when
Yeah.
the emotions are correct. That's what Bruce Lipton was talking about with
Yeah.
epigenetics.
Well,
You
and
know
there's the
that
whole thing with, when you're talking about the individual, right, sailing with their ship, there's an innate thing that getting out of trauma. I had a therapist when I first started. She's fantastic. Her name was Jenna Horgan, and she had this line that I've kept with me for always. The opposite of trauma is choice. And what you're allowing, what you're doing with your work is you're helping someone stop the blockade, pull that anchor up, and then you're giving them the reins to be like, hey,
Mhm,
you get to steer this. You get to decide what your suggestions are. You get to figure out what your path is.
mhm.
That's beautiful.
Sure. Yeah, and that part of the work to me is much easier, and it's once the block is out of the way, because you can tell somebody, hey, isn't this Mona Lisa painting really beautiful? Don't you want to study it? But there's a car accident occurring at the same time. It's like your nervous
Yeah.
system is designed to go for the threat because it's trying to
Yeah.
protect you, and as
Yeah.
long as that threat is perceived you're going to keep reacting to it because the subconscious has no concept of time. Zero.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something that happened 30, 40 years ago to the subconscious, it might as well be right now.
Yeah.
And when you are able to heal that, subconscious now looks at that incident and says, "Oh, that's not a clear and present danger anymore. We don't have to worry about that. We can move on to something else. We can allow this person to walk this path that they've been wanting to walk because now we perceive that path is safe."
Yeah.
Even though conscious mind said it is safe because that was 40 years ago. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Your body, it was this, the very famous book, Your Body Keeps Score, right?
Mhm.
No matter if it was 40 years ago, your body still remembers it like it was yesterday. It's like,
That's
if you
right.
took a piece of paper and you had a black dot and a black dot on two parts of the paper, your body just folds it and matches those two black dots immediately
Yep. And the secret is that you can use the same phenomenon to
to go
help
backwards.
a person heal. Right.
Yeah.
Because what it means is that the subconscious mirrors the quantum universe. So the quantum universe, we are told by quantum scientists, there is no
There
time.
is no.
The time is an
Yeah.
illusion created by a planet rotating on its own axis and then orbiting around the sun. That's what creates day and night and the seasons. Just
Yeah.
outside that system, there's no time, none.
Yeah.
And that's the mechanism that our subconscious mind conforms to.
Yeah.
So that's how you use time travel. It happens in your mind. And you can
Yeah.
travel what we call backwards and you can travel what we call forwards.
Yeah. Yeah. Where you,
And
yeah.
when you travel backwards to the subconscious, it's just as real as it perceives the trauma that happened 40 years ago is right now. And
Yeah.
when you go back in time in your mind and you heal it there, the version of you, because it's not your present self, it's an earlier version of you. And when
Mhm.
you heal that version of you, then you can integrate these two together.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's really funny to me is, there's some level of acceptance that's occurring right now with the whole going back, right? The going back to your old self, whether it's IFS or EMDR or ART, there's a lot of people who are like, it's more widely spread where you can go back and like help your past self. But people have this, like, again, this interesting disconnect from visualizing, thinking it could actually be real to go to the person in the future. Right? They have this disconnect where they're like, no, it could be real to go to your past self because you're really just talking to yourself, and like they can like mental it out, right? But when you talk about like talking to your future self, someone's probably going to feel like, even possibly listening to this, feel like, oh, that, well, yeah, okay, sure, you know? But in a world of if you can go backwards in time and heal a past self in this present moment by talking to that past self, how could you not also then go to a future self and link yourself currently with that future self?
Sure, particularly when the subconscious has no concept of time. And when
Exactly.
quantum physicists tell us that time is a construct based upon
Yeah.
what's happening with our planet.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
just,
if you can suffer from a past trauma, why can't you benefit from a future insight?
yeah,
And
exactly.
if the, and if you can mold and shape your future based upon your thoughts and emotions per Bruce Lipton, epigenetics,
Yeah.
then why wouldn't that work? Why couldn't so for example, no one would question that when it comes to an athlete. And I've worked with some NFL players, and no one would question an athlete before the game visualizing doing their job perfectly.
Mhm.
No one would
Yeah,
question
exactly.
that. They wouldn't
No, no,
say,
no.
"You're out of your mind. What do you think you're doing?
No, it literally is a
Visualizing
part of.
kick going through the uprights. Are you insane?"
Yeah, no, you're a crazy person. What do you
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
right.
You Good job, little kid. Your imagination is so great. Do you wanna be a pirate too?
No one would question that. But how many people, if they have a big business presentation, just spend 10 minutes going into their mind, imagining exactly how they want that to go?
Yeah,
Right? How many, I don't know, physicians before they do surgery imagine, okay, I'm everything is going perfectly.
yeah.
This is another thing too, is that the literature, and it's been borne out in the work that I've done over the years. The literature says that if a person's been prepared for surgery with hypnosis, that the procedure is significantly shorter and the recovery time is 25% faster.
That is
That's
fascinating.
That's what the scientific literature shows, that you can
That is
actually program somebody's mind so that blood is doesn't go to the site of the incision.
Okay, 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 okay. This world, we all know, is run by money, right? Like, ultimately, it's run by money and power, which is basically the same thing, right? Okay. In this world, I am manifesting that insurance companies will listen to at least this portion, this clip of you just saying that, or the science behind it, and they're going to now provide hypnosis before surgery because it will both benefit the individual who's having the surgery, the doctor who's doing the surgery, but also their wallet.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer actually. And
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
we
Like, why wouldn't you cover it? It's like it would be like that would be essentially the same thing as they cover like your yearly annual visit because it's supposed to help like make sure that cut back
we
costs on anesthesia on surgeons. Like,
we live in a siloed society
yeah,
where this silo doesn't talk to this silo,
I
and this
know.
one doesn't talk to that one. Like,
Yeah,
do you and I think that CEOs who are running multi-billion-dollar corporations are sitting in their MBA programs at Harvard and Wharton and Princeton, and they're learning about this kind of thing? Like, the silos don't talk. I'm not invited to their cocktail parties, right?
oh, but I would love for the silos to at least have like a representative that goes to like a meeting and like has a conversation. Like, oh, I see it so easily where
When
I'm just like, if they just, oh, so many
Rachel,
people would be helped.
when I so there was one NFL team that I was working with,
Yeah.
and and through the players I got a meeting with people higher up in the organization. And these are organizations that are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on players.
Yeah.
And it's a sport where there's frequent injuries. It's the only sport that has an injury report. This week, here are the players that are definitely on the injured reserve. Here are the players that are questionable. Here are the players that are ready to go.
Uh-huh.
And so many of the injuries involve surgery, like ACL tears and shoulder rotator cuffs and all this other stuff. And the financial gain to them for getting a player back 20 to 25% faster is
Uh-huh.
is
Huge.
probably calculable by somebody that's better at math than I am, but it's significant.
Yeah.
And I pitched them on the idea, and they were just like, they the language wasn't there. Like they
Meet the
couldn't get
gap. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't get an airing with the senior people. They sent somebody lower, I think, to kind of humor me because some of the players really liked me, and the
Yeah.
coach really liked me. And the coach basically said, "Yeah, I'd do it if I could, but I don't have the authority to pull the trigger on that." But it's
Yeah.
just
So
that the style is like, this is this weird hypnotist guy. Hypnosis is strange and
yeah, and
odd. Why
he
would we
thinks
listen to him?
he's trying to sell me his time. He's trying to, like, and that's what they view it as,
Right,
versus if they, like, if it came from, um if it came from the insurance company, if it came
yep,
from the doctor, if it came from somebody that they trusted, and that, but
sure.
then they would have to hear, yeah, that, but it's just like,
I
oh,
I have a I have a client now who is an anesthesiologist, and
yeah,
he and I have talked about bringing this under his aegis into the world,
yeah,
because medical people will listen to him because
yes,
he speaks their
exactly.
language and he has the credentials that they would
And he's
recognize
got the
and
direct
value.
effect as far as, 'cause he's the anesthesiologist, and anesthesiologists are one of the things, like, North Carolina, my insurance company, literally for 2 years was on strike with North Carolina anesthesiologists, where they wouldn't pay them, right? So they had this whole, so they have a lot of power because they're the people who literally control whether somebody can really do surgery or not, right? So
Right.
that is a really awesome way to possibly bridge that gap.
Yes, and one of the reasons why preparation with hypnosis and then a post hypnotic
Yeah,
process, and usually you can deliver this just through recordings that you
yeah,
make, is that people will use about a third less anesthesia than would normally be required, which
yeah,
reduces significantly the complications that can occur. Because one of the things you could do is you could bottom somebody out, you could give them too much.
yeah.
And anesthesia is toxic, so it takes the body some time to expel all that.
Flush,
So if they're
yeah,
not taking in as much and they're still maintaining their calm, right? Because they're
yeah,
measuring their blood pressure and other things to determine
yeah,
if I have to give them more anesthesia, then everybody wins. There's
yeah.
fewer complications, the person recovers faster.
Less
And
money, less everything.
he looked this
Yeah,
up and he's like, "Yeah, you're right. There is the science backs up what you're saying." And I've had the anecdotal experience with, I don't know, 20 or 30 clients that I've helped prepare for surgery, including this one guy who was previously addicted to opioids and he couldn't afford to get addicted again,
yeah,
particularly afterwards, because afterwards, if you have significant surgery, they give you very powerful drugs. And
yes.
with the people that I've worked with, the anecdotal responses they've given me is, I didn't have to take any of those painkillers. I was able to just take aspirin and I was fine.
That's amazing.
And it surprised the doctors and, like, yeah.
Yeah,
And then they were told by the doctors, "Yeah, you didn't use as much anesthesia as we thought you would need."
yeah,
Like, well, not sure why.
yeah. That's so fascinating. So, I have very limited experience with hypnosis, but everything that I've read has always been tertiary. It's things like, I've read Dr. Joe Dispenza's some of his books, right, which, of
Mhm.
course, breaches into that. But it's fascinating because you're sharing a lot of information that, like, makes sense with everything I know, but didn't necessarily know, like, as far as the effect on surgery and all that. And then I knew its benefits with therapy, but that's like the layers of essentially framing, because we do it every day, right? Like, if you're like, you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, it's going to be an annoying day, right? You frame the day and then you have more of that. It's essentially doing that same thing, but in a more powerful, more pointed, more scientific way. Like, if
Right,
you go
when
out
you're
in the day,
in and ideally, you're doing it when you're in the state, and the state is
yeah,
totally natural. And you talked about highway hypnosis. Yeah, people go in and out of hypnosis all the time, but our popular culture has inculcated this idea with people that hypnosis is a catatonic, sleep-like state where one person, hypnotist, is in control of the other person, subject, where their arms are out, like
uh-huh,
this,
knock
and
like a
they'll
chicken. Yeah,
exactly, exactly. And now that is a phenomena that you can achieve with a very small subset of the population if that's your
yeah,
intent, right? That's
yeah,
possible. Not everybody can do that. That's an extreme version. But
yeah,
but people aren't really aware that when they pull into their driveway and they can't remember driving the last 10 or 15 minutes, that's hypnosis. That when they're
yeah,
working in their garden and they come in and wash their hands and they have a cut on the back of their hand, they didn't remember getting the cut. That's hypnosis.
yeah.
That time
Or, like,
passing
even,
when they're
I was gonna say, even when you're playing and you're having fun time and you lose track of time and
same
you,
thing.
like,
Yep.
yeah, you get in the zone, the flow, you may name it other things, but, like, it's
Yeah.
still the same thing.
Yep.
And it's
And
not this
athletes
negative.
Athletes and artists experience this all the time, as do people in love.
Yeah, yeah.
When you're in
And we
love,
have this
time just goes bang like this. It goes so
yeah,
fast. The sun's going down. You're like, I feel we were here for 30 minutes and it's been 2.5 hours. What's
yeah. And it's not like you weren't necessarily present in it, because hypnosis doesn't mean that you're not aware. Sometimes it can be, but it's not always.
well, what it there are all these different definitions, and the one that I prefer is a focused state of concentration
Oh, yeah,
where
yeah.
selective thinking is employed. So it's like going from a large aperture of awareness, like you're looking through a huge Palladian glass window.
Yeah.
And then when you're in hypnosis, it's like you're looking through something the diameter of a straw. And anything outside
Yeah.
that diameter doesn't exist in that moment, like the act of driving your
Yeah.
car, right? Or
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So
No, that's a
we
great
just
way
move
to
in and
visualize
out
it.
of that. And that's why traditionally hypnotists, they don't do it anymore, but using like a swinging clock, or
Uh-huh.
having somebody stare at the second hand on a clock, or looking at a flickering candle, or looking at a crack in the ceiling, is it's called eye fixation. You're helping them bring their focus into this very tight band.
Yeah, anybody who's ADHD will automatically understand that concept because they zone. It doesn't matter what it is, their eyes will lock onto something. Their eyes are focused on it, but their brain is elsewhere. And so like
Yeah.
ADHD, they'll call it distracted, they'll call it other things, but essentially it's just your brain has gone on an escape method, whether it's daydreaming, solving a problem, whatever. But that's hypnosis. You're disconnecting,
Right.
but we don't
And
think about it that way.
these are all these are considered by hypnotists to be permissive ways of inducing hypnosis. There's a
Yeah,
more authoritative way of inducing hypnosis, which used to be way more popular, like in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, but it still happens just in the course of life, and that is shock. So somebody might reach out to shake somebody's hand, and then the hypnotist pivots their hand and then turns the subject's hand around and points it at their face and says, "Stare at your hand and close your eyes and go to sleep." And the shock of something that you do all the time one way being different,
yeah,
there's like a little window of where the mind's going, "What the hell is happening?"
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
and the mind is always looking for the easiest way out. So if the hypnotist says sleep, it'll go, "Oh, I know how to do that." Boom. And they'll go into a deeper trance in that moment. But that
yeah,
can happen when, like, if you're working in retail and somebody gives you the change that isn't quite right, and you're like, "Why did they give me," if the bill was 22.61, why did they give me 22.64 or something, or 21.64? And you're trying to figure it out, and there's a little moment that's kind of like shock,
yeah.
which is
Where there's this
also what
pause.
happens to people who've been in a car accident, right? They're
Which makes
already in
sense that
hypnosis.
you already had made that connection earlier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And if the person speaking to them is an authority figure, if they're wearing turnout gear as
Yeah.
a firefighter or an EMT or a police officer, they now have the status of authority, and we treat authorities differently than we treat the average person.
Yeah. For willingness to accept what somebody has to say. Yeah, for
More
sure.
so, yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Man, that's completely fascinating. So when you work with, you obviously have the free thing, but when you work with an individual, I'm assuming, do you do one-on-one sessions is what you do? Or
yeah, yep.
yeah,
I do one on one. I do one on one, and they're either in person in my office or they're remote. So I'd say probably 75-80% of my work is remote over Zoom,
yeah,
and I've been doing that for a long time. And at first I was like, I wonder how that would work, but it's just as effective, if not
yeah.
more so in some ways, because a person can be in their home. They don't have to be in an office and all that other stuff.
There's a
And when
level
they
of
leave,
safety. Yeah.
yeah, and when they leave, sometimes people are a little bit in la la land because we've gone through what I sometimes term as spiritual surgery. It's not every
Yeah.
session. Sometimes we're digging into really deep stuff, and they never leave before it's resolved, but there can be a couple of days of integrating that occur. And
Yeah.
so
No,
a
that makes
person
perfect sense.
can go from the session to, just hanging out in their house or taking a bath or something or walking around their neighborhood. I think
Yeah.
that's a really good thing. But
Yeah,
for the
yeah, like
people
grounding.
that wanna come in purpose in person and can do so, I always maintain an office for that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on the like for me, um, when I first started, it's not so much now, but when I first started doing the trauma therapies, I would end up having a like heightened dysregulation for a
Mhm,
couple of days post
mhm.
first touching on those things. And one of the first things I would do at the end of therapy was I would choose something small as a self-care. So I'd check in with my body and be like, okay, I'm going to take a shower real quick because water really helps me. Or I'm just going to sit and do a breathing exercise.
Yeah,
Right. And so the idea of something is because you're like you said, emotional surgery, that makes perfect sense that afterwards, them being in a safe environment, whether like and their office could totally be a safe environment too, but like if they're in their house, they can just immediately integrate into I'm gonna make myself a cup of tea. I'm gonna
yep,
go take a walk, like you said. Yeah. That is so
right.
fascinating.
Right, and you can add auto-suggestion into this, which is self-hypnosis, and I do think, as I said before, everything comes down to our autonomic system. We have lots of different words to describe unpleasant feelings. So we have anxiety, we have stress, we have depression, we have fear, we have terror, we have all these different words, but really when you think about it, all of them are activating the the sympathetic fight or flight response. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And all of our pleasure words are activating our rest and digest, the parasympathetic mode of the
Yeah.
autonomic nervous system. And
Yeah.
so the phrase, for people listening, just to repeat over and over again, I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm safe. So while you're doing the breathing exercises or whatever you're doing,
Mhm.
I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm safe. You can add in, I'm safe to relax. I'm safe to go to sleep. I'm safe to be me. I'm safe. I'm
Yeah.
safe. I'm safe. Because what
Yeah.
I describe to my clients is that all of us are metaphorically walking around holding the hand of our 6-year-old self.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the 6-year-old, the subconscious mind, believes everything is real.
Yeah.
Everything. It
Yeah.
doesn't
What happened
have
before all that? Yeah.
everything's now and everything is real. So if you tell a 6-year-old, and you would never do this, but if you said to a 6-year-old, you know what, the world's ending tonight and we're all going to die, they would believe you
Uh-huh.
and they would flip out. They would freak out.
Yeah.
If you told them there was a monster under their bed, they would believe you and they would freak out. That's
Yeah.
the way our subconscious is. And we
Yeah.
have to be very, very careful with our words. You know,
Yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar with the book, The Four Agreements.
Yeah.
The Four Agreements. Have you heard of this book?
Yes. But go ahead and share
Yes.
about it because whoever's listening may not.
So it's subtitled Ancient Toltec Wisdom. And one of the agreements is to be impeccable with your word. And as a hypnotist, I've reflected on this dictum a lot because we say things about ourselves and about our houses and our performance and everything that actually isn't true.
Yeah.
And the 3-year-old or the 6-year-old that we're holding the hand of is going to
Just believes
react
it.
as though it is.
Mhm. And it's
Like,
most
people
of
will
the time
come
it's
into your house
words
and
that
say, "Oh my god, your house is so beautiful." And some people will say, "Oh, no, it's not. It's such a mess. I wish you weren't here right now, and I feel
yeah.
so bad." And the little kid's like, "Oh yeah, it's a mess. It's a disaster." Like,
Uh-huh. Well, it's
you know?
most of the time when we're doing that, we're repeating words that were said, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
and so we're it might even be coming from that 6-year-old self who heard someone else say it, and then we're saying it out loud, but we're still repeating the pattern because the more we say it, the more that 6-year-old self is like, "Yeah, I was right. This is true." And it doesn't have to be.
Right, or people that talk about, "It was a horrible day."
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
Or
one of the first
people that might say that nothing ever goes right for them, or people that
Yeah.
say all men are narcissists, but they
Yeah.
really wanna be in a relationship.
Yeah. So one of the first things that when I was starting the healing process, I couldn't be, right? Like being with myself was just too much. But I could do. I was really great at doing. I was a type A personality, first like oldest daughter vibes, right? So I started doing the things that I knew I had read at that point I think 5 or 6 books including I'd watched The Secret. So I sat there and I started writing at the end of every day anything I could think of that went right. And I would just write until I couldn't think of anything. I'd be like, I put my shoes on and I didn't trip. Like, I brushed my teeth I got out of bed today. I fed my children. I fed myself. I drank 2 glasses of water. Like, I would literally list anything. It didn't matter how tiny it was. I didn't wash my hair, but I pulled it up so it didn't look as greasy. Like, it didn't, like, literally any and everything I could think of positive, because I was so integrated in thinking I'm horrible, I'm a waste of space, everything goes wrong, I'm going to have bad treatment. Like, I had such an integration of negativity that literally at the end of every day, to try to make myself go to sleep so that I might wake up in the morning, where you're like, because you're suggestible right before bed and when you wake up, I would sit there and do that because I was trying to retrain my brain, and that's something I could tangibly do
Yes.
because I couldn't do the other parts of it. But it's amazing how much, like, if you sit, most people have never said this. One of the first things I will ever say when somebody comes to me and asks, like, if they ask about coaching or they ask about whatever, because I don't generally do that because I've got 4 kids and I'm busy. But if somebody does, the first thing I say is, okay, before we ever have a meeting, I'm gonna have you do this exercise. And the exercise is this: I want you to draw a little person on the center of a page, a notebook. And I want you to take the notebook with you. And every time you cognitively, like, you're aware of you thinking something, I don't care what it is, I want you to write it down. And it's gonna be a lot. And if you can't do it really, really well for one day, do it for 2 days. I want you to get a peppering of the default thought process you're having right now. Because most people's default is all of this negative stuff. You
Hmm.
messed up. You only got 7 out of 10. I can't believe you. And they have this. And if you really sit there and you pay attention to what you're thinking, just paying attention to how negative you are and being aware of it is huge, because you're going to start feeling uncomfortable with the amount of things that you're saying. Some of them you're going to be like, yeah, that is true. You are kind of terrible. But other ones you're going to be like, bro, you got like so much done today. Why are you focusing on the fact you didn't make your bed? Like, that's really silly, you know?
Yeah.
And then on
Yeah,
the next
absolutely.
thing I ask them to do is I say, okay, now I want you to write down what you want to be true about yourself. And then I need you to compare those 2 lists. Do you think a person who has that life and is that person thinks these things? Now, what do
Hmm.
you want to replace those thoughts with?
Hmm. Yeah. It's a good
Because it's so
practice.
true what you're saying. Like, yeah. Because if you can't see what you're doing, you can't change what you're doing.
Hmm.
And you're so completely right on how much the words make a difference. So anyway, that was your first of the 4, right? The words
Well, that
make
was the
such a
one
big.
that I was wanting to call attention to, was
Yeah.
that one, was being impeccable with your word. Uh, and I do think that, well, there's another thing too, which is hypnotic language patterns. So we'll say to kids, "Don't track your muddy shoes into the house." And what we're doing is we're painting, like, on the canvas of their mind, muddy shoes going in the house. That's how you make sense of that statement.
Yeah.
And the subconscious doesn't recognize the negative clause. It doesn't recognize the don't.
Yeah.
It's just creating the image of muddy shoes in the house.
Yeah.
So it's a small example of how ideally you'd flip it around to, kids, take off your muddy boots in the mudroom so we can keep
Yeah.
the house clean. Because what
Yeah.
creates in the mind is muddy boots in mudroom,
And
house
the bedroom.
clean.
That's clean. Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, I say it once and it's magic, they'll never do it again, but I'm starting to
No.
stack the deck in my favor linguistically.
Yeah, it's amazing how that simple shifts like that can make such a big difference with other people or yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
right,
switching from negative language to positive language, painting the
right.
picture like you said.
And keep in mind that you have about 60,000 thoughts a day, and you're
Yeah,
only aware of about 3 to 5% maybe of those thoughts, because the rest are just happening at the subconscious level. So this
yeah,
is an iceberg issue, you know,
yeah,
that
exactly.
underneath the surface of the water, God knows what's going on in your mind. And if
Yeah,
a
and so
little
you can
bit of
sit
it is
there.
coming up to the surface, you can probably 10x that, at least, maybe 20, is being repeated at the subconscious level.
Yeah, with those shifts, but then even further with doing hypnosis, right? You can like really get down with
Mhm.
hypnosis because you're working with the subconscious
Correct.
when it's happening. That's
Correct.
yeah,
And one of the patterns of influencing the subconscious is what all education is based upon, and that is repetition. So
yeah,
repetition is like brute force, getting something from the outside to the inside, or getting something from incompetence or conscious competence to unconscious
unconscious
competence.
competence. Yeah, like I
Right.
talk about it being like I know it here, but I don't know it here. Is how I visualized it
Right.
as for
And
for myself. Like, I can know how to ride a bike, but I haven't put it in my body where I know how to.
Correct. And that would be an unconscious competence, which is now it's locked into the subconscious mind. And anything can be locked in. We can have negative
Yeah.
patterns as well as positive
Yeah.
ones.
No, it's completely fascinating how all that works and how all that functions.
Indeed. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been a wonderful
Yeah.
conversation.
No.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking your time and for asking great questions and for commenting on things that are
Yeah, I love that.
trenchant and
Yeah.
important.
I was gonna say, so other than BlueSky Hypnosis, which is on YouTube, is there
Yeah.
any other place that people can get a hold of you or get in contact with you or stay connected to you?
Um, well, my YouTube channel, yeah, my YouTube channel and my website are the two main places. I also have a presence on Instagram, um, but those would be the two: the
Okay.
website, Blue Sky Hypnosis, and my YouTube channel, which is also Blue Sky Hypnosis. And people can check out two things there. One would be what people say about these videos, because now some of them have millions of views, and so they've got thousands of comments. And you can see everything people say, and you can choose things that and try them and see what resonates with you. And if something resonates with you, just use it, multiple times to
Yeah.
take advantage of the repetition factor.
Yeah.
And then if you want to work one on one, they can contact me through the website blueskyhypnosis.com.
All right, perfect. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. This was a fascinating conversation. I love I got to know you as a person. For
Yeah, me
anybody
too.
listening, if you found this helpful at all, please share this episode and check out Blue Sky Hypnosis on YouTube and on his website.
Sounds good.